Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov Chess Channel and welcome to the round 7 of the Tata Steel Masters in 2025. So before this round, the leaders of this top event were the top grandmasters Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Ramesh Babu Pragnananda. With half of the point less than them was Gukesh, the current world champion, but today Pragnananda and Nodirbek played only draws, which gave here a huge opportunity for Gukesh with a potential win to catch up with them and also take the lead in this beautiful chess event. So let's see now what happened. His opponent was another very top grandmaster from India, Pentala Harikrishna. Put your seatbelts on. Great game these two Indian players played for sure. So with white, Gukesh opened with the move e4. We have e6 by Pentala Harikrishna, the French defense. d4, d5, e5, the advanced variation. After move c5 and c3, knight to c6 and knight to f3. We have now the so-called Paulson attack. Now comes the Euwe variation with the move bishop to d7. The idea about this move is then in some lines to go with a6 and bishop to b5 to force maybe trades of light square bishop. Usually the light square bishop of blacks is not really a good piece in the French defense. It's blocked by its own pawn structure, so many times black is trying to do this kind of a maneuver and simplify the game. After move bishop to d7, bishop to e2, knight to e7. Here we have castling by Gukesh. Good move, I would say. D takes c5 seems tempting because maybe you think now we get an extra pawn, but black can have this resource knight to g6 and will create a double attack against the pawn on e5 and also against the pawn on c5. So in the next move, white is losing a pawn for sure. So that's why castling, good move by Gukesh. C takes d4, c takes d4, and now knight to f5, simply going again for this backward pawn on d4. Gukesh continues with development, a6, king to h1, and this move I really like by Gukesh because here there is a certain tactical problem. You see in the next couple of moves, Pentala Harikrishna will put more pressure against this pawn on d4, and the thematic idea for Gukesh is to somehow pin the knight maybe on d4 when the queen comes on b6. But in some lines, when the knight comes on d4, when you for instance take, then notice a potential knight takes f3 move would come with the check. So that's why it was a great move here by Gukesh to clear the square, so to not get checked in a potential tactical sequence. Great opening theory so far by the world champion. Rook to c8, rook to b1. Now comes this idea, and now g4, and that was now Gukesh preparation. This was actually even a great theoretical novelty here performed by Gukesh, but now, believe me or not, Pentala Harikrishna didn't react correctly immediately. So in order to somehow stay in the game, look how tricky really this opening line is. Great prep, as I said, by Gukesh. Actually, what you should do, you should go with knight from c to d4. You should go, you should allow here maybe even g takes f5, because Pentala Harikrishna missed this sequence, but it's a brutal one. It's really a brutal stockfish line that Gukesh prepared here. For instance, then knight to f3 can happen. If you play bishop to f3, then the issue is you play rook takes c3. That's now the tricky part, because now the queen is not connected to the rook. In order to keep the pressure, white should go with bishop to e3, then rook takes e3, f takes e3, and queen to e3. And I would dare to say, really, black has here the initiative, although down the exchange, but with the bishop pair, I think this position could collapse maybe even a little bit for black, for white, pardon me, in the next couple of moves. Pentala Harikrishna missed, I think, his chances here to keep himself in the game. Even if you, I don't know, instead of bishop to f3, play here f takes e6, then bishop to e6 leads again into the similar line. Bishop to e3, rook takes e3, queen takes e3, and again, I would say black should be slightly better in this tactical sequence. Black's king is perfectly fine. White king is a little bit in danger. So g4, although a really tricky move, gave here, I think, Harikrishna an opportunity to somehow take over in the game. But he played a passive move, knight to e7, and now you see white has the initiative, white has the spaces, especially also in the center of the board. The bishop is blocked by its own knight. Nothing can be done anymore around the square d4, so really a good position now, finally, for Gukesh. Really tricky idea. Bishop to e3, now Gukesh cements everything here around the square d4, h5, and now g5 here by Gukesh, and now another tiny little inaccuracy by Pentala Harikrishna. He has of course the opportunity to somehow fix his position with knight to f5, but this move knight to f5 has to be prepared first of all with the move g6, and then you have an f5 score. And notice that the pawn structure, the pawn mobility is really static on the king side, so no way that white is going to open the position somehow on the king side at all. So knight to f5 is coming for sure, but instead of g6 here that Harikrishna should have played, he played here knight to f5 immediately, and again a brilliant move by Gukesh g6. He's splitting now, opening up now the position in front of black's king. What should you do? If you try f takes g6, seems tempting, seems also that you continue the pressure against the pawn on d4, then bishop to d3 solves every problem I think here for white. The pawn on g6 becomes now a weakness. You're trying maybe to hold the position, then bishop to g5, I don't know, queen to a7, rook to g1. I don't want to dive now too deep into this line, but I think in the next couple moves, really the position could collapse around the square g6. We pick up, for instance, bishop to e7, knight to e7, bishop takes g6, rook takes g6. The king is now perfectly fine on h1, and when the king gets endangered, when the black's king stays in the center of the board, I think this would be a one-way ticket here for white. So after move g6, that's why Pentala Harikrishna tried f6, tried to hold somehow the position here on this side of the board, but now obviously e takes f6, we have g takes f6, and now bishop to d3 here by Gukesh, trying of course to play bishop to f5 and mess up really the pawn structure here in the center of the board. That's why knight from c to e7. The issue is you cannot play knight to d4, you cannot go for this pawn, because then you're running into this tactical sequence. After bishop to c2, maybe, I don't know, you're trying to play the move b4, bishop to c5, but then b4 splits here simply the defense of the knight on d4. It's simply not working. Even if you try to hold the knight here with e5, again, it's simply not working because of the tactics around the square d5. So that's why for bishop to d3, knight from c to e7, rook to g1, good move by Gukesh, with some threats of course even to play the move g7, bishop to g7, and now suddenly Gukesh doesn't react correctly. Here white has the initiative, maybe not a completely winning position or something, but in order to stay active in the game here, Gukesh should have gone with bishop to f4. Knight takes d4 here, again, it's not a possibility, it's always a theme here. But then again, this idea of bishop to e3, and you see, as I said, if the king would be here on g1, then the move knight takes f3 comes always with a check. That's why I really loved this whole preparation by Gukesh with move king to h1, really a thematic idea against the French defense. Then e5, you could maybe try, but then you see, we could just continue the pressure here in some lines that I've just analyzed at home. The bishop could even be locked, so it's simply not working here for black. So instead of this move bishop to f4 that Gukesh should have played, he played a seemingly active move knight to a4, which gave here again Pentala Harikrishna the opportunity to play a counter attack with queen to b4. The position, believe it or not, is again pretty equalish. And then after knight to c5, you can even try this one. Look at this, rook takes c5, d takes c5, and then e5. Suddenly black's pawns are storming here in the center of the board. So here Pentala Harikrishna missed again, I think, a tactical opportunity to get back into the game. He played queen to d6, which is a slightly passive move, and Gukesh should have gone immediately with knight to c5, because now the whole sequence with rook to c5, d takes c5 is simply not working because of this line. Queen to c1, you can pick up the piece, but now the issue is in this sequence, the queens are off the board. You're trying maybe e5, then knight to h4, and with up the exchange, but also with this 3 versus 2 pawn majority situation on the queen side, I think white will have a comfortable game for sure. So you see, knight to c5 was now Gukesh opportunity. The knight is centralized, and now it's attacking this one, it's attacking the bishop, rook to c5. The previous tactic that we have discussed is simply not working. But Gukesh prepared knight to c5 with the move b4, and now after move b6, Gukesh lost his chance to get this knight on c5, and again here Pentala Harikrishna gained equality in the middle game stage. b5, a takes b, bishop takes b5, rook to b5. Here black can simply hold now the position. Knight takes e3, good move by Pentala. F takes e3. We have now rook to c6 going for this pawn. Queen to b3, simply putting more pressure against the b6 weakness, and now finally kingside castle by Pentala Harikrishna. Really a crazy game where Gukesh pushed it to the limits. Pentala missed some chances, but now still there is a problem of the b6 pawn. Of course, Gukesh takes it immediately. We have now bishop to h6, attacking now also the e3 pawn, and now Gukesh was a little bit worried about the possibility maybe of this line. I don't know. If you play something like rook to e1, he was probably worried maybe... sorry, that was not the point. Gukesh was probably worried about this opportunity of bishop takes e3, and then after queen takes e3, the knight could be lost. So the queen is a little bit overloaded to the defense of the e3 pawn and also of the knight on b6. In order to keep again everything glued together, everything protected, Gukesh should have simply gone with rook to e1. That would be a much better position again. And look at this, the issue is after rook to b8, that's actually the suggested move maybe in some lines. There is a tricky idea here by Gukesh. He could have gone with knight to d7. Probably he was worried about this tactics on the b file, but look at this. Even if you play rook takes b5 immediately, knight to f6 is coming with a check. You're playing king to g7, again a new check, and now still this rook is hanging. You have to now step back. For instance, if you go with king takes g6, then queen takes b5. If you pick up this one, then knight to e5 attacks now the piece. The queen is coming into the game. The rook will come, and I think it's game over here for black. So rook to e1 was now the only way I think here for Gukesh to have an advantage in the continuation, but he played a passive knight to a4, which allowed here Pentala Harikrishna again to equalize the game with knight to f5. We have now rook to c5 by Gukesh, and now in order to stay in the game again, Pentala should have played a calm rook from f to c8, and I think white doesn't have anything anymore in this particular position. But Harikrishna played rook takes c5, allowed again Gukesh to play knight takes c5, and now again, maybe somehow you can survive this position with move bishop to e3, but it's still now finally a better position for white. Then queen to b7 threatens to checkmate, but the knight has to stay on f5 in order to control here the 7th rank. Queen to e7, maybe knight to e7, you attack the piece, knight to f5, then this one is hanging. Okay, in this line, maybe, I don't know, white should be better, but I think in top grandmaster level, maybe black can hold this position. But instead of bishop to e3, Pentala Harikrishna played knight takes e3. This is not good because now the queen is coming on the 7th rank, and there's not a good move by the queen. When the knight was on f5, the queen would have been protected, and now bishop to g7 has to be played. Rook to e1 attacks the knight. Knight to f5 is coming now finally, but now the pawn is hanging on e6, rook to b8, and now check. Now knight takes g7, knight takes g7, rook to e7. Here Gukesh attacks now the knight finally on g7, forces now the move rook to g8, and here I would say Gukesh has now completely winning endgame. After rook g8 by Pentala Harikrishna, here Gukesh continues with rook to d7, good move, attacking the queen, and now simply hitting this pawn here. Obviously white is now completely winning endgame. Also, what's a huge issue is this tactical shot with, for instance, rook to h5, then knight to h5, queen to h7, checkmate. It's something that bothers now black in the continuation of the game. Queen to b1, here Pentala Harikrishna has to now deliver checks. Now he plays f5. So far he's covering the score, he's covering also this rank. He's not allowing rook to h5, but obviously this position is simply too stretch for black. It's simply too overloaded. White is holding this position. A rook to c5. Here Pentala Harikrishna tries to deliver some checks. A2 pawn is protected. King to f2, again a new check. And now here, even if you try, I don't know, to deliver some checks maybe with queen to b8, or if you're trying to get the queen closer, rook to e5 is now the great defensive plan. And look how the white pieces are playing in great harmony. Knight is protecting the rook, the knight is protecting the pawn is protecting the rook. Obviously you cannot move the knight because, again, the checkmate threat. You're trying queen to d6, but now in one moment, I don't know, white can even go for a completely fully endgame stage, trading off everything, and again this completely winning with these two extra pawns here. So after king to g3, instead of queen to b6 or queen to B8 that could hold a little bit of position. Pentala Harikrishna tried H4, but now here great move by Gukesh, king to F4. No good checks are possible. This knight on F3 is so powerful, it's not allowing really anything. This rook is holding this square. Great now activation of the king. We have queen to B8, and now this idea again, rook to E5 covering, queen to D6, and now king to G5 is even possible. No good checks are possible here for Pentala Harikrishna. Even if you try to deliver check, then king to H6, and then the plan is to go simply for this one. Also in some lines, knight to G5 is an opportunity. So obviously the position is collapsing. So king to G5, here Pentala Harikrishna tried this one, king to F4, and after queen to D6 in this particular position, black resigned. So I've just played a little bit longer here at home. King to G5, for instance, you're trying again to play the move queen to B8, you go simply with king to H6, and now for instance, if queen to D8 happens, if you try, I don't know, somehow you hold the dark squares, then rook to E7, you're double up simply here on the 7th rank. I don't know, queen to C8, then you go for this one, and again I think here black has to simply go for trades of pieces, and then the knight is hanging. So too many options here, but as I said, simply not a playable position anymore. After queen to D6, I think it was a fair resign here by Pentala Harikrishna. So great win for Gukesh, which means now that we have now 3 leaders in this event. Nodirbek, Abdusatorov, Pragrananda, and Gukesh have now 5 points, which is really crazy. Gukesh is getting back in the event. He started slowly, but now he has a couple of winning games and is now also the deserved leader of the Tata Steel Masters in 2025. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really crazy game in which we saw great opening theory, but also great counterplay possibilities for black in some lines of the French defense. You see, opening preparation is also very important in chess. Gukesh knows his stuff, especially this G4 stuff that he's doing now against the French defense, that he also used a similar method like G4 against Ding Liden in their World Chess Championship match. But okay, this is a great prep. This is great tactical game by Gukesh, and as I said, he's now also in the lead in this very thrilling chess tournament. So, okay, if you want to see some other beautiful chess games that we have analyzed from this event, check out our coverage. Here are some games of some beautiful players here that are participating in the Tata Steel Masters. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.